Welcome to Do You Ever Wonder? The show that brings you answers to many of the questions that you may have, but with no one to ask. Do You Ever Wonder is hosted by Mike Haltman, CEO of Hallmark Abstract Service, who, like you, has always been deeply curious about a wide variety of topics. Each week, Mike will be speaking with guests who are leaders in their field and who have inspirational stories to tell. So now, sit back and enjoy the show.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, depending on where you're living. But my name is Mike Haltman. I am the host of Do You Ever Wonder? And today we are very fortunate to have with us Geoffrey Stevens, or Jeff, depending on how heated the conversation gets. But Jeff is the president of Florida Retail Brokerage. He's been in that position since 1998. Is that about right?
That is about right.
All right. Give or take, just it's about right. All right, we're about right.
About right. It's hard to remember those things as the years go by.
Yes.
I remember when I got my broker's license. That was 1991. That I remember.
Okay. All right. So that's great. I think I have a feeling you actually might be younger than I am.
Does it matter?
No,
Right.
it really doesn't. You know what? You make a very good point.
We're all in a
So,
race for the same place.
yes, we are, unfortunately. But so you started Florida Retail Brokerage. What part of Florida are you in?
I'm based in South Florida. I work real estate transactions all over the state for my brokerage business, but I'm based in South Florida.
Okay. Like the Boca area or closer to Miami?
Actually, for 40 years, I was in Broward County, outside Fort Lauderdale, and just this year, we relocated to Palm Beach County, just north of Boca and Boynton Beach, actually.
I love Boynton Beach. That's great. Obviously, we have a lot of friends down there who are becoming the snowbirds of tomorrow.
Yeah, well, I
Very
beat them
nice.
to it.
Yep. Why, were you originally from the north?
Yeah, actually, I was born in Northeast Pennsylvania, Scranton, in fact. I was an Army brat, and I was raised pretty much in Baltimore County, Maryland.
Okay. So you were born in one of the hometowns of Joe Biden.
Well, the first hometown of Joe Biden, yes, that's true.
Yep.
But and I still have family there and all over throughout the Northeast, but I don't get back there too often.
I know it's gone through a real rejuvenation, I think, from
In some respects.
yeah, from a purely industrial town to more of a not purely industrial town.
When I was growing up, my grandfather used to drive me around, and we used to see smoke on every mountain. They were called comb dumps, and that's where people would dump their coal
Really?
ash, and
Wow.
it would just smolder and burn for years.
That's great. And you know, it's good for your lungs.
Yes, I'm experiencing that right now, as a matter of
Oh,
fact.
well, I'm sorry about that. But
No.
so now that you're in Florida and you're in commercial brokerage, what is the focus? What property type is your bread and butter?
Well, retail real estate has always been my sweet spot. When I started my brokerage company, I had a partner. He was a strong manager, general manager of the Aventura Mall, in fact. And he handled the management, and I handled the brokerage and leasing until he got sick. And then I had to take over the management for a short period of time. I learned two things. I was really good at it, and I really didn't like it. Uh, and then it's just too much work, too time consuming, and it just took my focus away from doing deals, which is what I like to do.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. So you focus mostly in the retail sector.
We focused on retail at the time. We used to do property management and leasing for third party assignments from landlords. After 9/11 happened, my partner went back into managing malls. I went back into what I was really good at, which was director of business development for design and construction. And then I started integrating my real estate practice back into that by helping tenants find new locations. So I would be involved in designing and or building their retail stores or restaurants. And then I would want to keep them as clients. So I would go out and find locations for them. That's actually what motivated me to get my real estate license when I did.
Right.
Um, but these days, it's strictly tenant representation. I really don't care for the accountability. If you've got a landlord, they want to know every week what you're up to, what you're doing, who you're talking to, what kind of deals are you bringing them. I just don't need that accountability at this stage in my life. I like to say that I'm in the hurry up and wait business. I hurry up, do my job, get the information to my tenants, get the information to the landlords, and then I just have to wait for either side to make a decision.
Right. Well, but then hopefully after the wait is over, you get paid.
Well, I don't look at it that way, but I know that if I do my job right, I really don't give up. My close rate is really high. I know there'll be something in it for me. So I just focus on completing the transaction.
All right. You know what? That's a great attitude. So now we talked about Florida retail brokerage, but the backdrop behind you today is
Yeah.
the real reason that we're here, which is Florida retail scholarships. So I basically found you after I spoke with one of your scholarship recipients, JT Marting.
JT Marting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What a so I found him on Twitter because there's a large commercial real estate. I'll call it a family. It's really not a family, but you know, it's a large presence of commercial real estate. And JT was his moniker there was real estate rookie, and you know he I think he's 20 years old.
Yep.
He's a Gen Zer who breaks the mold on your typical Gen Zer because his ambition and focus and desire to succeed are really astounding. And you know, when I looked a little bit into JT, you know, I found that you were, I guess, part of his stepping stone to where it is that he wants to get to. And I was fascinated by that, so I decided to reach out to you, and here we are today. So, you know, I think it's great at what you're doing is great, and I was particularly struck. You have a sentence on your website that describes what it is that I think Florida Retail Scholarships is all about, which is that you look to introduce students to infinite possibilities that commercial real estate has to offer.
Wow. That sounds
Do you
pretty
remember,
good. That's on
do
my
you remember
website.
that, Jeffrey?
I don't remember a lot of things, but I'll own it. It's
You know what? Well, that's a great phrase.
yeah. It
So,
is. And the fact of the matter is that, look, my passion happens to be retail real estate. Actually, my passion is working with students. Retail real estate is just what I do. That's my vehicle to get me there. And what I try to do when I speak to students is present to them that number one, they really need to do what they're passionate about, because if they find something they're passionate about, they'll always figure out a way to make a living out of it. And being passionate about something leads to a much more fulfilling life. Not that my life wasn't fulfilling. I chose the path of being very active, raising our children, and that was a good experience. And then I got involved with both of my, I have a son that's married and a daughter, and I'm involved with their lives pretty regularly. We're very, very close, fortunately for all of us. But we would strategize about how they could advance their cause with whatever it was, whether it was trying to secure an internship or get into a graduate program. And I noticed that I was really good at it because I had success with both of them. So I thought, gee, why not try to do that with other students? So first I became a certified mentor with Viner Community Scholars out of Boca Raton, in fact. They do full ride scholarships to deserving students of diverse backgrounds, first generation college students, as well as single family income families. And it was a good experience, and it just wasn't enough for me. So through a bunch of calamity of errors, actually, I founded Florida Retail Scholarships, and my main focus, other than trying to hand out pocket money scholarships when we're funded, is to just present career paths or choices to students and let them decide. It doesn't matter to me whether they go into retail, it doesn't matter whether they go into real estate. What matters to me is that they get an opportunity to explore the infinite opportunities that are out there and let them make an informed decision about something that they're passionate about. And if I can affect that, it's a good feeling.
So you're a mentor who's looking to have some kind of impact on other people's lives, basically young people, which
Exactly.
I think is phenomenal because it seems to me, and again, this is just my observation, but it seems that a lot of the 18 to 25 or so people are a little bit lost and could definitely use some guidance.
Our flagship program has been this ICSC at Florida scholarship program. And JT was with us last year. We brought 12 students. The year before, we brought 18. And this year, we're bringing another 18.
Wow.
And that's out of maybe 40 students that applied this year. And I spend an hour with each one of these students because I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to bring them if I can, and I want to learn what they're all about. And if I can try and expose them to other opportunities, I felt like I've had a good day. So it's been pretty interesting to see, just like what you were saying, that some students are really lost. Some students don't have their priorities straight, while other students are way ahead of the game, and they're the future movers and shakers. I especially appreciate dealing with them because I wasn't like that when I was their age.
Amen. Neither was I. I went from being an overachiever as a young child to being an underachiever through college, and then I became an overachiever again after business school. But you got to give it to kids today who do have the eye of the tiger because it really, whatever whatever affects them. My kids are older, so they were never really impacted by social media. You know, they led normal lives. I have we're a very close family as well, and they're focused on what it is they're doing. But I don't know how that came to be, and I don't know how kids who lose their way, I don't know how that comes to be. But you have ideas about that?
Well, I mean, it's just what we're exposed to. It started with gaming. There's a lot of violence in gaming, and I think that reality creeps in, and people have alternate forms of reality these days, and that contributes to it. And I read about how desperate some parents are when they learn how much trouble their kids in because they're affected by social media. Fact of the matter is, we all are. I'm affected by it.
Of course.
I've been an opponent of social media for as long as I can remember, and I was really forced to do it. Matter of fact, the first time I held off on being involved in ICSC, I would go to networking events every year. I've been a member of ICSC for well over 30 years. I never miss a local meeting. I'm just a strong networking person, and that's where I make my living, by talking to people and having conversations. But I'm an unsung hero. I like to stay in the background. So I would never get involved in a dais or be a speaker or anything like that. And this one time, some friends of mine said, "Why don't you join our panel? It's on social media." I go, "I'm not interested in social media." They said, "Exactly. That's why we want you."
Right.
So I'm on the dais with my colleagues and friends, and the moderator would ask questions. How long, this was about maybe 5 or 6 years ago, how long would you spend on social media? And I would say, well, they would ask them first. Well, I spend 35 minutes on Instagram, and I spend 40 minutes on LinkedIn, and I spend almost an hour on Facebook. And they would ask me, how much time do you spend? None, I have a life. And I would get the biggest laugh in the room, and
Right.
everyone would come up and say that to me afterwards. But the fact of the matter is that when I started my scholarship company, I realized I wasn't going anywhere without social media. And in fact, I reached back out to my colleagues with the subject line in the email, "Time for me to eat crow," at which time I humbly apologized to them for my discretions and asked their help in getting me started with social media, which I've done. And it's going pretty well. But I can see even in myself when I'm reading about someone's successes, if I'm having a down day, it doesn't motivate me. It depresses me. And I could see that with students.
Oh, listen, again, my kids weren't, they were before the Facebook era, but when, if you're a kid and you see posts about things that either you're not invited to or that someone is doing great at or whatever, body image, I mean, the whole nine yards, it's horrendous. But now you're a social media guru, I think it's fair to say. And which is the platform that works the best for you?
Well, I stick to LinkedIn because that's where the most amount of professionals are.
Right.
I need to keep in touch with our scholarship recipients, of which we have 36 so far, plus the next, because 6 or 7 were monetary scholarships. But they don't really want to cough up their Facebook accounts. I understand that. And I don't really want to know about their personal lives in detail. It's not the right format. Instagram is okay, but LinkedIn seems to be the most, it seems to address most of the check boxes when it comes to business.
100%.
So that's primarily where I swim.
So now how do you, so first, how do you fund the scholarship program?
We are strictly funded by donations. We have a benefactor, Woolbright Development, in fact, that's helped us since day one. They're the main reason why we were able to start our ICSC at Florida Scholarship Program. They've consistently given to us 3 years in a row. We're now in our 4th year of operations. Matter of fact, I'm making arrangements to pick up this year's commitment later this week. So that's how it got started, with a little bit of corporate sponsorship, a little bit of individual sponsorship. This year, we've been really blessed. We've got we've got more individual sponsors that are sponsoring students than we've ever had, and that's been a beautiful thing. I've also dabbled in creating events. Like I've created the Florida Retail Summit. We've held 3 of those, 2 in Broward County, 1 in Tampa, Florida, Hillsborough County. And they were some pretty big fundraisers for us. We raised quite a bit of money, which enabled us to continue and give out various scholarships.
So
So
I mean, that's great. I'm the board chair of a charity myself, and fundraising, it ain't easy.
no,
It
it's
ain't
like pulling teeth. And I've found myself doing things I thought I would never do. I'm still
100%.
angry at myself for doing them, but I do that. I'll grovel, I'll beg, whatever it takes to be able to raise some money to help a student.
Right.
I'm willing to do it.
You know what? My wife says I never ask anyone for anything, but when it comes to asking for the charity, I don't have a problem doing that. I mean, of course, like you, I'm not thrilled about having to do it, but when you have a mission that you're passionate about, it kind of changes your outlook on what is possible and what you can do. It sounds like you've stepped out of your comfort zone quite a bit.
Way out. And I make a point of telling students or anyone that's willing to listen, if you don't ask, you don't get.
You know what? That's a big phrase in my family, but that's 100% correct. And I think similarly, if you don't push your comfort level, if you don't step out of your box, if you don't, push the envelope a little bit to, I think those were 3 cliches, but
Right.
if listen, life doesn't give to you, you have to go out and get it. And the way you do that is really to push. Like I started my company now in 2008, and I had never really had to network before, and I was never really thrilled with walking into a room of strangers and having to break into a scrum of 3 or 4 people who I'm sure could do without me doing that, but you have to do what makes you uncomfortable, and after a while you're comfortable.
I still remember the first ICSC event that I went to. It was the Florida conference in Orlando. Must have been about 35, 36 years ago. And I was a vendor, which is even a little bit more difficult, meaning just like yourself, I wasn't on the real estate side directly doing transactions, but I was doing design and construction for leasing, for landlords. So it helped. But I'll never forget, I go to the first conference, I didn't know anybody there, and I'm in the back of the hall, and I look around, and I just happen to catch the eye of another shy person, and we just kind of smiled. And his name is Dave Palumbo. We've been friends ever since. He lives in Atlanta, and if I have to do something in Atlanta, I know I can reach out to him and count on him for help. So
Right.
it was just a great learning lesson. If you don't ask, you don't get. If you don't approach, you don't get to meet people. I only wish I would have learned that at a much younger man, but we learn it when we learn it.
You know what? 100%. If I had learned the lessons I know now when I was a wee lad, I would have my path would have been much different. But again, like you said, it is what it is. We are where we are, and you know what? Listen, I've when I turned 50, I started trying to push my comfort zone. Whether I did a fight for charity. I rappelled off a 20-story building.
Wow.
Just things that would scare you, but if you don't do it, then what do you got?
Right.
You just have your fear, and I think a lot of people are run by their fear.
Unfortunately, that is the case. And it's very easy to get over your fear. You just need to have someone guide you and show you how to do it. We have quite a few intern programs, and that's exactly what we focus on, because mostly it's students, it's their fear of the unknown, it's their fear of what could happen. Nothing's going to happen. You're either going to have a conversation or you're not. It's as simple as that.
100%. I always tell my kids, now they're in their 30s, but it's like, what's the worst case? The worst case is, you know, people spend weeks leading up to an event worrying and
Right.
anxiety, and it's like write down on a piece of what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
You don't do well, or you do great, or yeah, it's tough. So JT Marting, I met through Twitter,
Right.
and I'm curious what it was about him when you spoke to him that said to you, I want this kid to go to ICSC.
You know, you should have asked me that ahead of time, because I would have pulled out my notes.
Well, so it's JT Marting who?
Because I know I remember the name. I remember JT very well. One of my fondest memories at ICSC was the fact that our program has photo shoots at various landlords and developers, uh, colleagues that have helped us. So we send the students over there. And he was consistently a little bit late, not real late, but a little bit late. And I kept scratching my bald head and saying, "What's going on, dude?" Well, he was hustling. It was plain and simple. He was out there doing exactly what I suggested that he did, and that was talk to as many people as he could and make as many connections as he could. So, in answer to your question, I can't remember exactly. All I know is that he told me that he wanted to learn about commercial real estate. Wasn't sure he was going to go into retail, but he had a passion for it, and he wanted to learn. And he would be grateful if we would be able to include him. And it was as
Well,
simple as that.
I apologize for that gotcha question. This was, but you know what? You navigated it well. But so, in just to focus on him for a second. So, I don't know if you're familiar. There's a guy, Bob Knackel, who's a huge guy in New York. I actually interviewed him on this podcast. But Bob, and another guy who goes by the moniker Strip Mall Guy.
Strip mall guy. And I found out about those guys from your uh, from your program, and as a result, I went and did some research on them and listened to some of their podcasts.
Okay, that's great. But
Yeah.
so they did a thing last year called the X Gala. I don't know
Yes, I heard
which.
about that because JT got himself into
Right.
something that no one would get into.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Which is I mean, the caliber of commercial real estate person who attended that gala was just off the charts. And
Right,
there's this 20-year-old kid who's basically an intern.
right.
He got an invite. But, that's a testament to and you give him credit for the ability to network. And
Yeah,
again, that's the perfect example of networking gone wild.
yeah. Networking on steroids, actually.
A hundred
And
percent.
and as long as you put your mind to it and ask questions, you just never know where a conversation's going to go. Once you get skilled, you can guide it, but every conversation leads to something new. It's just a matter of what you decide to do with it.
It's truly amazing how every conversation can lead to something, whether it's business oriented, whether it's charity oriented, whatever it is. But it is amazing, and I'll be curious to see where his path takes him. I wouldn't be surprised if it was to New York City, but who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
So, what are your plans for the future with the scholarship?
Well, we're going to continue to grow. In a perfect world, I'd love to see us bring more than 18 students in a single year to ICSC. It's our sweet spot. I've been, the ICSC has, for those who don't know, it used to be known as International Council of Shopping Centers. And about 5 years, they rebranded to Innovating Commerce Serving Communities. And I would say that in the last 36 years, I've probably been to the national conference in Orlando, maybe 19 times. That's quite a bit. But I'm a local deals person. There's no reason for me to be at a national conference unless one of my clients wants me there. So unless they're asking, I'm not going. Now I do have a client that wants me to go next year, and the very biggest party of the conference is a rock and roll concert party, actually put on by a group out of Atlanta. And coincidentally, the director of leasing is married to a distant cousin of mine who my daughter friended when she moved to Atlanta.
Wow.
So he's like, "Well, you got to come. I've got VIP tickets for you." So,
Wow.
so I'm going
What
to go
time
to
should I
that.
be there?
Huh?
What time should I get there?
I'll send you an invite if I can. Uh,
I'm just
but
kidding.
uh, but anyway, so that one's I go to every other year, every couple of years. Doesn't really matter. Florida conference, I've missed one in 36 years. That's my bread and butter. That's where I network. That's where I find out. And every single conversation leads to an opportunity for me. That's
That's
the
great.
beauty of it. Yeah.
That's fantastic. So now, is Florida Retail Scholarships, are you a 501c3?
We are a 501(c)(3), which is essentially a public charity, is recognized by the Internal Revenue Service. We're also listed as a not-for-profit with the state of Florida. So technically, donations to our scholarship company are tax deductible. But in this day and age, it's no more tax deductible than a regular business expense.
Right,
So,
right, right. But
yeah.
have you ever, as a 501c3, have you ever, and I'm sure you have, investigated other potential sources of donation, of grant?
We're just looking into that. I do have a director of development who was a career not-for-profit professional. She's quasi-retired and she's an old friend, so she's helping us with that. So we're slowly making changes. For example, our monetary scholarships were never need-based. And in order to qualify for grants, if you want to get money, you have to show reasons why, and need-based is a reason why. So now we're changing our criteria, which is just an extra step in the qualification process. Now they're going to have to produce their FAFSA score, and now we're going to have to evaluate it. And the ones who have who are in more need will rise to the top of our monetary scholarship. So we're looking to make those changes. When
Right.
I set it up, I never thought about raising money. I'm not a fundraiser by any stretch. I'm a salesperson. I'm a marketing person.
They're
Uh,
the same thing.
well, but it's not. Raising money is a whole different animal for a
Absolutely.
cause.
But it,
But I'm
so
learning.
just spitballing. I mean, it seems to me that the local, larger commercial brokerage firms who all have philanthropic arms would I mean, to me, this seems like a no-brainer for them to, you know, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000, to them it's probably like a drop in the bucket, but they
It
can impact
is.
young people's lives and possibly even get quality employees out of it.
It's an education process, and no matter how much I've tried to up my game on social media, it's still educating one person at a time. And one of our board members joined in, and I wouldn't say we went viral, but just his post alone ended up yielding an additional, the equivalent of 7 or 8 individual sponsors. So we
Wow,
got 7 or 8 individuals that sponsored a student.
that's
It was a good
phenomenal.
learning experience for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's
and
excellent.
yeah, and what it is it's just an education. So you're 100% right. The larger brokers, they're printing money. They're very, very successful. They can certainly afford it. They also recognize that they need the next generation to bring in
Right.
because they're going to have people that are going to start to fall out and
It's the
replace.
it's the consummate win-win. And since you are an expert on LinkedIn, that's the such a great place to find the people, whether it's the head of their community outreach or whether it's the head of marketing or media, whatever. But I don't have to tell you, but
Yeah.
LinkedIn is great. But I this has been a real pleasure. It's nice to meet the guy behind at least one of the success stories that I know, and I would love to touch base again some point in the future and learn more about where you are then, because you're doing.
Anytime, Mike, my door's always open, and we're seeing, as the years go by, we're seeing more and more success stories, and we just want to keep doing that, helping students secure internships, help them secure entry-level jobs, just help open the door for them.
You know what? You're doing great work, and as you said, you're introducing these students to infinite possibilities,
Yeah,
which is a
exactly.
great. Your phrase is great. I'll email it to you so you remember it.
I'll have to go look for it.
Uh, all right. But listen, keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, Mike.
Absolutely.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to Do You Ever Wonder? And we hope that you enjoyed the show. Next week, we will have another terrific guest telling their story. And if there are any specific topics you'd like to hear more about, please don't hesitate to let us know. Our curiosity, like yours, knows no bounds. Please subscribe and like and share this episode on your social media. See you next week.